you're not going to be good at it right away. You have the advantage when it's on video that you can take multiple takes. Don't try to do everything at once, and just give yourself some compassion that you're not going to be the best video person right away.
Hey, welcome back to the Accelerate Your Insurance Sales podcast. My name is Andy NEARY. Today, I am joined by Joe Erle. Joe is a cyber security specialist with C3 Risk and Insurance Services in San Diego. And he's also a gentleman I've had a chance to work with. And I wanted to have Joe on because the man is putting in the work. He has built one heck of a brand around cybersecurity. Heck, in this episode, I learned a lot about cybersecurity that I was completely unaware of. And he is contributing consistently as a thought leader through articles like Hacker Slang You Should Know and the Rise of AI-Driven Cybercrime. He is also the podcast host of Ransomware Rewind. Yes, this man has built a niche around cybersecurity, an area of insurance that is only going to continue to grow in importance. And quite frankly, I wanted to have Joe on to reward him because the man's putting in the work when it comes to content. So he is going to share his journey from self-doubt to building a nice little content machine for himself. So if you are sitting in a position right now where you know you should be doing a little more content, but you got the fears and the doubts, you're going to love this episode because Joe's going to share his journey. So here we go. Joe Erle, C3 Risk and Insurance Services. This episode is brought to you by True Captive Insurance. What if you could take full control of your healthcare strategy without the financial burdens of traditional insurance? At True Captive Insurance, they make that possible. As the only captive in the nation that puts up the majority of collateral on your behalf, they provide financial flexibility from day one, making them an advocating partner for their customer success. True Captive's fully customizable plans and cost-saving strategies ensure you never have to choose between affordability and quality care. It's time to break free from the limitations of conventional insurance. Take the next step today. Visit truecaptive.com and discover a smarter way to manage healthcare. That is truecaptive.com. Joe Erle, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thanks, Andy.
I'm excited to have you on for one big reason. You know, a lot of people know us, Complete Game Consulting, for content and helping people with content and LinkedIn and all that stuff. It's not all we do, but it's definitely part of our wheelhouse. And you're somebody that I wanted to have on the show, I want to say almost like a reward because you're putting in the work. And we're going to talk about that today because I'm sure you had a lot of hesitancies or a lot of fears, right, when you started doing it. But for people who know, who may see your stuff on LinkedIn right now, I think people would think, this guy's been doing this for a long time, and that's not the case. And so I definitely want to talk about that. But let's start here, Joe. For people who have no clue who Joe Erle is, this is the first time they've heard the name Joe Erle with C3 Risk and Insurance Services. Let people get to know you a little bit.
Of course. Thanks for having me on, Andy.
Yep.
Really happy to be here. I guess I'm in my own office, so I'm always here.
We are in the C3 podcast studio, which you call home.
Yeah, I usually sit in that chair, though. So, yeah, Joe Erle here. I'm originally from Sacramento. My family moved around a lot. We were Air Force brats.
Okay.
My dad was a navigator in the Air Force, retired after 20 years as captain, so we lived in Alaska, and then we ended up in Sacramento, where he finished his career. We grew up there, and then went to college in Cal Poly, and now I'm here.
Did you go to Cal Poly SLO?
Yeah.
Yes. One of my employees, Amy Essig, is a grad from Cal Poly SLO.
Yeah?
So, yep.
Yeah, I love school.
Never been there, but I heard San Luis Obispo is a cool town.
Yeah, it was a lot easier to get into than it is now, I guess.
Where did you guys live in Alaska?
Anchorage.
How was that? How old were you?
I was young. I was like 0 to 5.
Oh, okay. So probably don't have a ton of memories.
No, not a ton of memories. I remember hanging out on the roof. My brothers would set off firecrackers. Actually, my oldest brother would shoot firecrackers at my brother Ezra. So not recommended, but
and oldest brother being Gabe.
No, we have one.
Oh, you actually have an older brother than him because
Yeah.
Gabe's also in the business here at C3.
Correct.
I'm curious, like, I've always heard like when you live in Alaska in the wintertime, it gets dark at like 2, 3 o'clock, doesn't it? Like super early. I couldn't imagine that. what that would be like when it's already getting dark and it's like halfway through the afternoon.
Yeah, I don't really remember that much of it. I remember one time there was a moose that came up to the window. I remember one time my brother was chased by a bear, and I remember one time my brother got turned into the fire department by my mom for having too many firecrackers. And I was at the fire department saying, yeah, M80s, bottle rockets, M80s, bottle rockets. That's all I remember.
So this is not going to be a podcast on pyrotechnics here, but, well, how did you most of us didn't have some fancy story of how we intentionally got into the insurance industry. How did you get in the industry?
Oh, right. Yeah, I guess I was getting to that. My dad's second career was an insurance broker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after he retired from the Air Force, he went into insurance. Okay.
Yeah, I worked at a farmer's agency, and then he went to an independent agency after that, and he eventually became partner.
Okay.
And then my brother Gabe got into the business after working at IBM for a few years, and I was not going to be in insurance. I did not want to do insurance. I did go to business school, but I was planning on, being some kind of like international man of mystery type person. That was my plan.
So what made you ultimately submit and go, all right, I'll come into the industry?
I didn't really like corporate America. It wasn't what I thought it was.
Okay.
I worked at a company out of Minnesota, Fastenal, and I was an assistant manager / outside salesperson. Drove around a big truck selling hardware and stuff like that, and just wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Interesting story about that Fastenal. So I worked with an agency who has been their broker since they were one location in Winona, Minnesota. I think they're headquartered in Winona, where this agency is,
I went out
located.
there to the training, and
they still have the benefits now. When they're, think about how many employees
they're
Fastenal
a $9 billion company.
But they had it. They were the agent when it was one location in Winona, Minnesota. It's kind of a cool story.
That doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
Even with like tech companies, I've worked with a lot of startups. And a lot of time, once they get funding, they bring in like the VC insurance company.
Yep. I've experienced, been part of those, losing those accounts because the client takes on PE, and then now the PE is bringing in the broker that they have on their entire portfolio.
They're giving us $50 million. What do you want us to say?
Yep.
Like,
they've got a lot of say when they're throwing that kind of money.
We're going to use their insurance broker. Like, okay.
Yep. It sucks to lose, but at the same time, you can't get too mad at yourself because you really did nothing to lose it,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'm always happy for them.
Yeah. Let's talk about, content. I worked with you guys. When did we work together? It was like early 2023, I believe. And at that time, I will be honest, when I looked at everybody in the room that we were working with here at C3, I probably would have not picked you as the guy who would go on and now kind of be the one I see all the time on LinkedIn with video content. What made you decide, like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put the work in to start creating content for social media?
I'm thinking back then, I would say that I probably had like 1 foot into kind of tech, 1 foot into trucking.
Okay.
And I was making content about trucking and some about cyber, and I just like had some small successes with content, and I started to get a little bit of recognition and a little bit of traction. Mm-hmm. And I really hate cold calling,
which is where most people start their content journey. Right? I'm just trying to avoid having to pick up the phone.
Yeah,
that was me in 2014.
Yeah,
I honestly, I built my strategy because I didn't want to have to pick up the phone.
Right. Yeah, I'm not afraid of the phone. I mean, my first phone experience was like calling people from Cal Poly and asking them to give donations. And I was like the top guy getting like credit card numbers and stuff like that. Yeah.
So you were good on the phone.
Yeah, I was good, but like it was very transactional.
Yeah.
But the kind of companies that we're working now, it's like just getting past the gatekeeper is very difficult. And when you start to make content and people find you online, you're kind of skipping that. They're coming to you, or you're going to them directly, and they've already seen you, so it's a little bit easier. Yeah.
What would you say, early on when you did make that decision? I have to imagine you had some fears, whether it's fear of failing if I do this, or comparison. What will people think? Did any of that go through your head as you started to create content? Because, you're not just creating any content, you're creating video content. And I think for people, that is what is ultimately the most difficult, because now you're putting yourself on camera. And I think a lot of people, that's when they freeze up, all the doubts come in. Did you have any of those fears or doubts when you started hitting the record button?
Absolutely.
What was going through your head? Like, what were some of the concerns? Because I think there's a lot of people that are going to be listening to this episode that are probably in that position right now, that are sitting on the sidelines, not doing anything because they're too afraid, or they're waiting until the perfect moment. And you and I both know there is no perfect moment.
Yeah, I would say it's like a microcosm of like my overall fear of failure.
Okay.
So like when you go for something, or like you commit to something and you do it publicly, it's bigger than just doing it silently, where that, like, you're when you're creating video and you're putting yourself out there, it's very public. And if things don't go well for you, that's at least what I'm thinking in my head. Obviously, things have gone well, and I can still like kind of look back and see like where I was, and if I look at old videos and things like that. But you don't want to publicly fail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to just like a fear of failure in the first place, like a fear of like being judged. And during that time, I was doing like a lot of self-reflection. I was working with coaches and things like that, and it all kind of tied together on my fears of failure and things like that I was working on the other parts of myself. And it kind of made sense that like by doing this, I'm giving myself like my own therapy almost.
Yeah. No, I think what you're saying is you're actually helping yourself overcome fears in life. A lot of the limitations you have up here, we all have them. And actually recording video is helping you accomplish that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's interesting.
And it's interesting because like when I first started, I was very awkward on camera.
Mm-hmm. We all are, man.
I'm still pretty awkward on camera. Like my kids were making fun of me the other day. And they didn't mean to make fun of me. It's like, Daddy, it looks like you don't want to be like behind the camera. I'm like, really? That's good feedback. I'm like, I need to be like more like, seduce the camera more, like Tommy
like
was
Tommy
talking.
did in the past episode, right? Yes.
Yeah. So, I'm still learning, but it's really helped me because I'm doing more public speaking.
Yeah.
I'm doing panels, webinars, and every time I do one, it's like I get a little bit better.
Yep.
And I would just tell the people out there that you get better at the thing by doing the thing.
You know what? Here's what I would love to do with this, man. I think people are going to love this because you just kind of hit the nail on the head. If we look at you today, you're putting out content. You have a podcast. You've been sitting on panels. You've done some public speaking, which, by the way, recording a video is a form of public speaking.
Absolutely.
And so we see where you are today. I'd love for us to kind of peel back the onion and go, okay, let's go back to the start. And we're going to kind of walk people through this. So I think they're going to get a lot of value out of this. So let's take it back all the way back to when we were actually working together. Mm-hmm. Again, I would have not pinned you as the guy of everybody in this office as the guy who would have gone on and now is probably the one doing the most video content. Simply because in our conversations, I could sense the doubt a little bit. But here you are. So let's start here. One of the things I teach when I work with people on content is the first thing you got to get clear on is what do you want to be known for? So as you put content out there, what are you going to be known for? And I think one thing you've done a fabulous job of is picking that lane, cybersecurity.
Right.
So let's start there. Why did you, because at the time we were working together, you were doing some targeting trucking. You were also doing some cyber. What made you ultimately go, okay, I'm going all in on the cybersecurity lane?
It's a funny story because it does relate to cyber. I was at a trucking convention, the annual membership convention of California Trucking Association, and one of the clients of ours, it was one of Jamie's clients, and he approached us, and he's like very flustered and feeling, you could kind of tell he was off, because he's usually like a really fun guy to be around, and he's real guy's guy. And he had just been hacked. A Kira ransomware group, locked him out of his systems. And it wasn't just like a regular ransomware where they just encrypt his files and have to pay. They exfiltrated his files. And of course, it's got his tax returns, his family's tax returns, like his mom's stuff, his dad's stuff. And even though he has backups, he's like, I can't let that stuff get put out on the dark web. And of course, not everybody has cyber insurance. It's probably like 50-50 right now with people that have it in Doan, and he was on the 50% that didn't have it. And he had done a good job. He had his IT people working on it, and he was negotiating with the ransomware guy himself. They demanded $250,000. He actually got him down to $115,000, which is like great. Like, that's almost 50% of what they asked for. And the problem came is like, he's got to pay these guys, right? And they want to get paid in Bitcoin. He doesn't have any Bitcoin. He's not like a Bitcoin, purist. So he has to get a Coinbase account, put $115,000 in there, tries to send it to them, and his account gets locked. So now he's got $115,000 locked up in a Coinbase account. He's got to get it out of there, and he still doesn't have a way to pay these guys.
So he's out $115K, doesn't have access to his stuff yet, and now he's trying to figure out how to get the money.
Yeah, and the clock is going down. They're like always like,
sounds like a movie.
You have 2 weeks to do this, and he was already like 1.5 weeks down. And they're about to like release his stuff, right? So he's like trying to buy time with these guys. So that's where we came in. And I was like, let me make a call, because I was already kind of in with the cybersecurity community a little bit. And I had a really good contact, a good friend now that lives in Pittsburgh that owns a cybersecurity company. And he used to work at the NSA and everything. And I called him up, and he connected him to this company called Digital Mint that makes payments for this exact thing. That's like what they do. They have a big Bitcoin account, and they make payments to hackers on behalf of individuals and insurance companies. So he was able to talk to those guys, even though they were in New York at the time, and it was after hours, and they were able to do the transaction within like 24 hours. So I was like, this is something that people need, and I can make the biggest impact.
Well, man, I mean, I would love to know, what was his response to you when you were able to come through like that?
Oh, he was so happy.
I was just,
he was like, it was like
his
such
life
a relief
to you in many ways.
Like, it's, you don't understand. Like when you're hacked, you're like, it's like somebody's got you by the tail, to be nice about it.
I would say the balls. Yes.
Yeah, they have you, and it's like you feel very vulnerable.
Yep.
And I mean, it sucks to get hacked, but like if you do have, an insurance company that can help you, at least you have like somebody that can help like put the team together to get you back on your feet. Yeah. Because like all the things he did by himself with the incident response, the negotiation, like the payments, all that is done by the insurance companies when you have a hack.
So do these insurance companies even have the negotiators?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So when you have a hack, they usually first connect you to breach counsel, and they'll make sure that you're like saying the right things and kind of guide you through it. They'll usually bring in an incident response team, and that way everything's under privilege.
Yep.
So that things that don't need to be shared don't get shared. And then, they either the incident response team or the breach counsel, they both have negotiators, and they usually go with whoever has the best rapport with that specific ransomware group.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I just talked to an agency about a month ago that had a breach in their email system. And it wasn't quite that where they were being held for ransom, but they were told that their emails all the way back to 2015
Jeez.
were probably compromised.
Oof.
Yeah, it's caused a major issue. And this is an employee benefits.
Right.
So now you're dealing with HIPAA information, you're dealing with all that stuff,
Yeah.
and it's a nightmare. And I think the need for cybersecurity, you know better than I do. I gotta believe it's only going to get bigger as we move forward. I feel like my credit card gets hacked once every 6 months nowadays, and it's just a common thing. It's like, I guess they're gonna close that one out, and I got to order a new card again.
I know, and then all the things that you have on auto pay, it's such a...
Well, I'll tell you on a little micro scale, nothing to that degree. I was overseas this last fall. I was in Spain on a men's retreat, and I was in my hotel room at like 10 o'clock at night, which would have been morning here. And I got a call from the sheriff's office of the county I live in. And the number looked legit. Waukesha, Wisconsin, everything. And they had me by the proverbial balls, because they were saying that, I won't go into the details, but they were saying I was part of a case or a suit, and I needed to report to the police department in Waukesha to verify somebody next day. You have to be here the next day, otherwise. And I said, I can't. I'm out of seas. I'm out of the country. And the second I said that, looking back now, their script went into motion at that point. They had me, man.
Wow.
Yeah. And thank God, truly because of some divine intervention, I texted a buddy who was on the trip with me saying, hey, can you come down here? And he came down, and while I'm on the phone with this guy, he's doing some investigation on his phone. We come to find out, he's like, this is bullshit, get off. But had he not been there, they would have had me.
Wow.
And the only reason, this is the part that was divine intervention. He said, dude, I got to tell you, when you texted me, my phone was off and I was about to go to bed. He said, but something told me to check my phone. They had me, though. And now I know that's not a cybersecurity tech, but these are guys out to do one thing, right?
I mean,
it's a different form of it, right?
We cover social engineering.
Yeah.
That's a form of social engineering.
They were good. They had me. And I look back, and there were probably mistakes I made in the conversation where I gave away something I shouldn't have. But I'm like, dang, that was good. They had me believing they were legitimately the Waukesha County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, the sheriff's not going to call you. They're going to come to your house.
Yeah, well, and that's where we finally went like this. Kyle called the sheriff's department, and they said we would never ask for payment from somebody over the phone.
Right.
And that's when he went.
Yeah, I've gotten those calls. My wife's gotten them. She's called me and be like, "Do you know anything about this? Like, do we have to pay these people?" Yeah.
Yeah.
And a while back, I fell for a vacation scheme where it's like, pay $500 and we're going to give you like a week in Maui and then another 3 days in Vegas. I fell for that.
Yeah.
My wife.
I'm sure everybody listening has had that one moment where you look back, God, was I an idiot?
Yeah.
But we all got sucked in because it's good.
Yeah.
They're good nowadays.
And then they called me back again.
That's how they got me. They called and left a voice message. And then they called again. And that's when they got me. I'm like, they're calling back again.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they wanted me to pay an extra like $200 so that my credit wouldn't expire.
Hey, it's Andy NEARY. Thank you for listening to the Accelerate Your Insurance podcast. Did you know the ideas we share on the show are things we actually specialize in helping you implement? If you want to increase your sales, make more money, and be the thought leader your prospects reach out to, please go to my LinkedIn profile, DM me, and sign up for a free discovery call. Again, go to my LinkedIn profile, DM me, and we'll get you set up for a free discovery call. All right, now back to the show. Well, we can talk horror stories until the end of the episode, but let's go back to cybersecurity. So that situation that you just shared, where you helped this trucking firm get out of that situation. I mean, I hope every advisor, especially if there's commercial advisors listening in who are selling cyber, that has to open a lot of eyes. So at that moment when you realized the impact you made on that trucking firm, is that when you made the decision like, okay, this is something I really want to do? Like, there's a little passion behind helping people with this.
Yeah, it was. That was definitely part of it. Like, I was working with a coach at the time, and I was making a lot of cybersecurity, cyber insurance content. And I was talking to him about like how it would be cool to be like the cybersecurity guy, at C3. And then we had hired a new sales manager, Marife, or business development vice president. I don't know what her title is, whatever. And she was like, Joe, like I see you on LinkedIn all the time. Like you should be our cybersecurity guy. And I was like, yeah, I know. Like I just talked to my coach about that like 2 hours ago. And then this episode happened like a week later. And after, I had talked to him, I was going to the John with Jamie. And he's like, Joe, you should be the cybersecurity guy at our office. Like,
how many times do I have to hear this in a matter of a couple of days?
Like,
yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was then. And also like, it was also in the works, kind of in the back of my mind. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
And then eventually it just happened.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit. So as you sit down and do your content, so number one, you got a podcast.
Right.
What's the name of the podcast?
Ransomware Rewind.
That's awesome. And can we find that on Apple?
Yeah, on
Awesome.
Apple, Spotify,
So
YouTube.
So okay, so I want people to hear this. So remember, you decided you're going to go into cyber. You decide that you're going to start making content. And by the way, whoever this coach is deserves a couple thumbs up. And it's not me, it's somebody else, but they deserve a couple thumbs up because it sounds like they encouraged you to do this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you had all your teammates. Again, I call it divine intervention. You have how many different people say, hey, Joe, you should be the cybersecurity guy. Start the podcast. One way to create exponential awareness, get a message out far, fast, and wide. Who do you typically interview on your podcast?
We interview cybersecurity experts, CISOs, or people that are running cybersecurity for companies. Also, like people that have stories to tell about being hacked, and influencers, either in cybersecurity or elsewhere. Like I interviewed my friend that's a comedian, that's an influencer. We talked about cybersecurity for influencers. So I think like I'm open to interviewing a lot of different types of people. We just keep the theme on cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And how many times, how often are you doing an episode?
We're putting them out probably like 2 a month.
2 a month? Cool. That's awesome, man. How about the panels? You said you talked about the panels and the public speaking. I'm curious, did those opportunities come by way of your content, where somebody saw you and said, hey, we'd love to have you on this panel at this conference? How did you start opening the door to the speaking on panels or public speaking opportunities in general?
I would say as a combination of that and also networking within the community. And also like kind of part of my, what do they call that when like you're doing your own therapy? Like when people like put spiders next to them.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So yeah, that's part of that. Like when I'm talking to people in cybersecurity, I'm like, do you know anybody that wants to speak around cyber insurance?
Okay.
Do you need any experts? Do you know anyone that's running conventions? So I'm asking for those actively to try to get on those panels and things like that.
That's cool. So how does it feel? Like I said, I take it back to when we worked with you guys, and I know you had some doubts and some fears. Here you are now putting all this kind of content out. How does it feel now? Would you say, like when you hit record on a podcast today compared to hitting record on a video a year or so ago, how does it feel today compared to a year ago? Is it a lot easier to hit record?
Yeah, I would say, especially on the podcast, because I have more like, it seems like it's something I kind of do for fun.
Okay.
On the videos, sometimes I feel like I do procrastinate on purpose for those, and
okay, so you still have your doubts.
I still have
your hesitations.
I still have hesitation when I
That's cool.
when I press record.
That's natural.
One thing that's really helped with that is hiring a social media manager.
Okay.
So like I'm investing in the social media. He needs videos to edit.
And is that the marketing team you guys work with here?
No,
Okay.
no, I use my own person.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yeah,
cool. Awesome. So I want people to hear this though. You've invested in your own person.
Correct.
Okay. I want people to hear that. That's important. Cool.
Yeah. So I meet with him about once a week, and we
Okay.
go over the posts and things, and we because when I first started, I was doing everything myself.
Yeah. Oh,
taught,
which I think you have to, by the way.
yeah, I taught myself how to edit. If you don't have an edit, if you want to learn how to edit, I would recommend just starting with like an app called CapCut. It's really easy to use. It's fun to use, and I was, fits and starts still. It was like, I was my own like logjam or bottleneck. So like by being able to do fits and starts still, but like having content planned out a month ahead, I can have a concurrent amount of content, like 4 videos a week, and still like only tape, once a week.
That's awesome. And where are you posting a lot of your content?
I'm posting on every platform now.
You are. So LinkedIn,
Yeah.
YouTube,
Yeah.
Instagram,
Correct.
Facebook,
Yep.
TikTok.
Yep.
Dang, nice. You're hitting all 5. Love that.
Yeah.
Love
Because
hearing that.
when I was doing it myself, I only had time to like do it on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I got to do quotes, and I've got to call people and all this stuff. And
I'm curious,
it's
how
a lot of work.
has it helped at all in any way or form when it comes to new business? Whether people just say, "Hey, man, I see your stuff, I like it." Are you getting any kind of that feedback from clients and prospects?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably out of my friends and my connections, they probably see me the most out of any insurance agent. Yeah.
That's awesome. So here's what I love about what you're doing, and I think you're going to start experiencing this if you haven't already. The agencies that try to be the jack of all trades. We do life, we do business, we do commercial, we do personal, we do health, we do disability, we do it all. Those are the folks that are kind of restricted to a very small geographical market, in my opinion. The people who decide to become a specialist in one thing can go wherever they want. And I think that's what you're building right now, because you are the cybersecurity guy. The day's coming, if it isn't already, where you could technically work with any organization anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
Because you're the cybersecurity guy.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. What would you say to somebody out there listening in who is a little afraid, on the sidelines, hesitant? Maybe they're trying to wait for the perfect moment. They have the fear of failing, fear of looking stupid on camera. What advice would you give them?
The thing that comes to mind is growth mindset. I mean, you got to do the thing to get better at the thing. And growth mindset, beginner's mind, whatever you want to call it, like you're not going to be good at it right away. You have the advantage when it's on video that you can take multiple takes. You don't have to take the first take. You can cut it up. You don't have to like look at the camera and do a minute with one take. You can do like a little bit of the video, look at your notes, do some more of the video. Like don't try to do everything at once, and just give yourself some compassion that you're not going to be the best video person right away.
Yeah. And I think if we all go back and look at our first video, for some people it's 6 months ago, some people it's 6 years ago. But if you go back and look at your first one, you're always like, wow, was I bad? But you get better. It's reps, right? It's like riding a bike. You get better if you put the reps in. One thing I do want to talk about, Joe, I didn't intend to on this episode, is, again, I wanted you on because I love the work you're putting in right now. But you've said 2 things on the show I want to go back and highlight because I think they're really important for people to hear. You have a coach and you have a social media manager. So let's talk, if you don't mind, you don't have to give away any secrets, but like you have a coach. What do you typically work on with that coach?
Getting around like mental blocks.
Okay, mindset.
And processing, childhood trauma type stuff.
Okay, so it's more, hey, help me get better. It isn't necessarily a sales coach.
No.
Perfect. I want people to hear that. This is somebody
coach.
helping you be better.
Yeah.
Love that.
So
love that.
He helps. I mean, the guy's like owned businesses before, but his coaching is really around like getting you past the things that are stopping you from being your best self.
Mental limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those all go back to childhood.
100%. Yep. I love hearing that. How often do you meet with him?
About every 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah. You also have a social media manager. How often? I think you said you meet with him once a week.
Yeah, once a week.
What do you guys talk about in that meeting?
Usually he has a presentation for me to go over. We talk about like new trends, videos that have done well, haven't done well. We go over metrics and kind of like what we want to put out in the next, few
Does he
weeks.
help you with the strategy around like, hey, these topics are things I would think about in the upcoming weeks?
Yeah, he's doing a lot of pre-production too.
Okay.
He's like a big part of like making videos is the pre-production.
Mm-hmm.
I used to just like put the camera on myself and be like, okay, what am I going to talk about today?
Mm-hmm.
But now I have like these one-page sheets that have like the idea, has talking points that he helps me develop, and I can be like, okay, I'm going to do some videos today, I guess, even though I don't want to.
I'm going to avoid them as long as I can.
I'll do like, and then I take out these pieces of paper and I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk about cyber insurance for healthcare.
Yeah.
And then I've got the talking points on there. I can look over them, do the video, and it's a lot easier than it used to be when I was like just bullshitting it.
Yeah. I'd be curious. Now that you're doing this, have you found the act of prospecting to be a little more fun than it used to be? Because content is now a part of that activity. It's not just, hey, I'm going to pick up the phone 200 times this week and I'm going to send a bunch of cold emails. Because you're incorporating this content, the podcast, speaking into that overall game plan, are you finding it to be a little more enjoyable?
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, like I'll be prospecting to someone, sending a cold email, and I'll link it to a LinkedIn video saying like, hey, this is what I talked about in your industry. Did you know this? And it does help like guide, like show. It gives me more confidence that they will know that I know something about their industry.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they see me and they kind of get to know me a little bit.
Yeah. I want to go back to that point you made where that moment you made the decision to do this. What made you ultimately say, I got to do this, I'm doing it? Was there something, were you not happy with your performance? What finally got you to the point where I have to do something about this? Because I think this is where a lot of people don't. They don't have that moment of, okay, it's time to go all in.
Gosh, I feel like I've had that moment a couple times.
Okay.
I've started and I've stopped and I've started and I've stopped. But the last time I started, I haven't stopped yet. And it's kind of like going to the gym, like doing videos, kind of like lifting weights. You don't want to do it, but you feel great after you do it. And you just have to like make it part of your routine. And I just think that I've got like so much momentum, it'd be like a shame to like stop.
That's a great way of putting it.
Stop.
Yeah, I think you're at a point, and you and I were talking about this offline. You're at that point right now where you're still early enough where you may have not seen the big returns yet, but it's coming. But what you are seeing is the momentum.
Yeah.
And I love how you just said that. It's easy to stop early when you don't have a lot of momentum going. Once you get the momentum going, it's like, I can't stop now because I have too much momentum. And that's when you know you're at that point where it's about to go like this. It's going to be that hockey stick. I see it happen with everybody. And so that's why I wanted you on, because you're right at that moment. You're not somebody who's already, hey, I've gone on to 3x my book of business because
Right.
No, you're still right here.
Yeah.
You're about to experience that explosive growth. That's cool, man.
It feels
I love
like
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I had my first viral post. That was exciting.
Describe viral. I want people to hear what's viral.
I took a movie of a fire in Mission Valley. We were at a sales meeting and this fire started
Was
over.
that right here at the office or no?
Yeah, we were. It was. I was recording from the conference room.
Okay.
And the mall across the street, like behind it, was on fire.
The grass was on fire, right?
Yeah.
It was right around the time of the LA fires.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was popular video, I guess. And on Facebook, I got like 1.1 million views on it.
Wow.
It was like whoa, like people want to see this fire stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll become a fire chaser instead of a cybersecurity guy.
Well, you were taking advantage of timing, but
Yes.
at the same time, you saw the power of virality, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So newsjacking,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
That's a form of virality. And I would say what you're going to witness too, because you have made the choice with your content not to be the jack of all trades and talk about a bunch of different stuff. You talk about cybersecurity.
Right.
That's it. And I think you're going to start to see that kind of, on a platform like LinkedIn right now. LinkedIn is definitely rewarding thought leadership right now. So you stay focused on cybersecurity, you're going to be rewarded by their algorithm for sure.
Yeah. And I've had some other like really great podcasts I've been invited to be on, like Power Producers podcast. And then I've got this guy that has a podcast that wants to be on my pod. How many times I'm going to say podcast? He has like 150,000 followers. He's like, I noticed, what you're doing. I want to be on your podcast. I'm like,
That's awesome.
okay. I mean, we've only had like 6 published episodes, but let's do it.
And have you had an opportunity to public speak?
Yeah.
Where was that at?
We did the C3 Cyber Summit.
Okay.
I've done a number of webinars like for credit unions, stuff like that. I did Let's Talk Security conference. So I've done some.
How was that to public speak? Because that, more than video, is where a lot of fears come up. So how was that to stand on stage and speak to an audience?
I felt like it was okay.
Okay.
I think the key to talking in front of people is being well prepared. And
I always say the best form of flattery, be prepared.
yeah, it's being prepared, and I had slides too, so that helps. And I knew I knew more about the subject than everybody in the room, which helps too. So it wasn't too bad. And it's kind of like giving a toast at a wedding. It's fun if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I like that. But you were also prepared.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, this is why I wanted to have you on the show, because I knew we were going to be in California for a few weeks, so I came down here and wanted to shoot this live with you because you're putting in the work, and I think you are a great example of somebody who made a decision to do this, to go in on this, and I've just loved to see the growth you've experienced. Not only that you decided to lean in and do video, you expanded it to include the podcast now, Ransomware Rewind. You're getting on other people's podcasts now as a result of it. You're getting opportunities to speak as a result of it, all because you decided to make a choice. And here's what I love the most about it, though, Joe. You invested in yourself to do it. You said, early on, I did everything. I edited. I've hired coaches. I've hired a social media manager. And the best part about it is video for you is almost now its own form of therapy, as you said.
Yes.
It's helping you overcome things you deal with in everyday life, the limitations between the ears.
Absolutely.
I love hearing that. And I wish that is the message I want people to hear, is we have so many producers in this industry right now, quite frankly, who don't enjoy what they're doing because they don't like how they're doing it. And if we could just get more people to realize building brand awareness, which is what you're doing, is almost kind of a form of therapy, because you get to be you get to show up as yourself, do something you love in a way you love doing it. And man, that's what I love the most about what you're doing.
Yeah. And I would want to give like a quick plug to C3, because they really let you be yourself here.
And I can attest to that being here.
Do things
Yes.
your own way. I've never felt like I could be myself at an agency.
Yep.
So that really helps.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, if there's somebody listening in right now who is at that point, they're about a chapter or two behind you, still hesitating, what advice would you give them?
I would say just go for it. Reach out to people like me, like people like Andy. Follow us. Do what we're doing. There's enough business out there for everybody, and kind of carve your own path. I mean, it's out there for you. You just have to go and get it.
Yeah. Tony Robbins said this, success leaves clues. Model, then modify. And so, yeah. How can people reach out to you, man, if they wanted to get in touch with you?
The best way is on LinkedIn, Joseph Earle, or they can email me.
Or check out the Ransomware
Yeah.
Rewind podcast.
Subscribe. We need subscribers.
Yes. 6 episodes in, baby. Let's get some subscribers. Well, Joe, man, it's been an honor. You're putting in the work, dude. I love seeing what you're doing. I hope every producer listening to this podcast today gets a little inspiration from you, because I love the fact you're still in the middle of that journey. You still have your doubts from time to time. You even admitted sometimes you still procrastinate the video.
Yeah.
But you're doing it. You do it anyways. Yeah. You step into the discomfort and you do it anyways. If we could get more people to do that, we'd have a lot more people who would be enjoying what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So, Joe, thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, Andy.
That's all we got for this episode of the Accelerate Your Insurance Sales Podcast. One of the most valuable things you can do to help us and other new potential listeners find our show is for you to rate the show and leave a review. So as a special bonus for you, if you leave us a review, take a screenshot of your review and send it to me as a DM to my LinkedIn profile. I will send you a free copy of our LinkedIn Diamond Playbook, our proven 4-step strategy to grow your business on LinkedIn. So go right now, leave us a review, screenshot it, and send me a DM on LinkedIn. Also, please share this podcast with anyone you think would enjoy it. That's it for now.